And there we are. Just as we go live, you face the other way, eh? Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Wednesday. Can you say good morning? Oh, he's eyeing up the builders that are working in the garden opposite us. There are strange people looking over the wall, aren't there? He's being a bit of a hero. Anyway, good morning. Welcome to Wednesday. If you're watching, as usual, you beat me to it, put a hello in the comments, and we'll get a day started. Got a bit of a hectic day going on in the Patterson household today, so I apologise if everything gets interrupted, but we'll... Oh, hello, you went on camera then.
Did I?
In your sexy shorts.
Lucky I got pants on.
Thank you. Yeah, different layout today.
Yep.
Hello.
Hello, Matley.
Different setup today, haven't we? Yeah, we've had a bit of a change around in the Patterson household too. We're testing stuff out and moving furniture around, and yeah, all
It's
of
called
that.
being married.
It's called being married. Yeah. When I say got a bit of an itchy brain.
I had an idea. It's usually expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're rearranging furniture at the minute, which is why the camera's a weird way around. We'll see how we go. And hopefully Eric won't bark at the builders too much. Good morning, Louise. Good morning, Maria. Hope the biscuit's all right now. Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Angela. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, Holly. Made your first live. Yay. Good morning, Susan. Good morning, Emma. Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Kerry. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, Jackie. Good morning, Karen. Wow, good evening, Sephora. Good morning, Karen. Yeah, don't encourage him to bark. He doesn't need encouragement. We had a very nice friend here yesterday. You barked at him the whole time, didn't you? Yeah. My apologies. Good morning, Sasha. Good morning, Amanda. Good morning, Mrs. Mac. Lots of lovely people. Welcome. Good morning. All right, we're going to settle down now. There we are. He's eyeing me suspiciously. What are you up to? And yes, I am sitting on an uncomfortable kitchen chair, and Eric has the armchair. That's how it goes in this household, isn't it? That's how it is, isn't it? Put that down there. There we are. Good evening from Pagan as well. As soon as you came on, she's up and listening. And he's gone investigating. There we go. Good morning, David. Yes, people, dogs, the whole shebang, cats, llamas, all of us. Yes, Eric does have Eric webcam. I had to buy him his own web camera. He's investigating now, off investigating. So yes, welcome to Wednesday. Interesting subject today, suggested by one of our lovely viewers, about religion and paganism. Come back, Eric. He will at some point, don't worry. Good morning, Mary Ann. Emma, grateful for the cooler weather. Yes, too. We have, we've got some work to do in the garden, and it's been too hot to get out there and do it. So we're hoping to get some of that done today. But yes, interesting subject today. Witchcraft and religion, which don't necessarily go in hand, but the question that I was posed was more about the conditioning, if you want to use that word, the religions that we grew up with in our house and how we are taught as children, as older children, and how you kind of shake off those traditions, those beliefs to walk into witchcraft, paganism. So there's crows flying overhead just as I said that. Shake off is probably the wrong word, because I'm not sure you do want to drop those traditions. I think for me it's a personal thing. So let's start with witchcraft, which is a magical practice, not necessarily a religion or a faith. It is a magical practice. I think the more you get into it, the more you experience. I tend to think as being a witch as my religion, as my faith. But if you want to be technical, I am a pagan witch. My religion is that of a pagan. So yeah, it can all get a little bit complicated, but you don't have to be pagan to work witchcraft. I know several Christian pagans that you can work that into it. You work with God and Jesus and Mary as your deities. But I suppose if you think about it, with all the different religions, all the different cultures across the world, there are similarities throughout them all. The way that people worship. A prayer is just a spell, really, very simple spell. Can't be any religions that don't use incense. That seems to be quite universal. So that's it, really. That's the subject for today, is your religion. Did you grow up following a particular religious pathway? Your family, were you influenced a lot as you grew up with your parents' faith? And how did you then work that into yours when you found witchcraft? Quite a big subject, but any thoughts, any questions, any insights, and we will see where it takes us. Good morning, Debbie. Good morning, Kerry from sunny Clonelly. It's grey here, grey and overcast, but we don't mind because we need garden stuff done. So I set up a webcam in the armchair, and you've now moved to the other chair. Dogs, eh? Dogs. Good morning, Lizzie. Good morning, Eve. So yeah, that's where we're going today. How do you work how do you let go, perhaps is the right way to put it, of those religious beliefs to move forward with paganism or with witchcraft or with any of that? We'll see how we go. Good morning, Helen. Now, I didn't grow up in a religious household. I was sent to Sunday school on a Sunday morning, but I'm pretty sure that's just so that my parents got 5 minutes peace. My family's not religious, although we do the big family things, Easter and Christmas and that kind of thing. My family's not religious. I discovered Girls' Brigade when I must have been about 10, I think. Started going to Girls' Brigade. Loved it. I was in Girls' Brigade for about 6 years. Went to Girls' Brigade meetings every week, but the Girls' Brigade is linked to the Baptist church. So I ended up going to church every Sunday, not with my parents, but with my friends from Girls' Brigade. I went to Bible study classes, went to a Billy Graham concert, and it was my faith. It was my belief. I prayed, I connected with God. Cat in the garden now. Gonna have to open the door. He is a ferocious beast. The ferocious beast chasing the cat. So yeah, I went to Girls' Brigade, and I had belief, I had faith. It was a big part of me for quite some time. I think I probably ended when I found boys. But I did struggle. And the thing that I struggled with within the Baptist faith was the devil. I knew there was a divine being or a divine something. I knew there was something I was connecting with. I knew I had a faith. I really, really struggled with the idea that there was an entity, a being that was solely evil. I couldn't wrap my head around the idea of the devil. Funnily enough, since then, I've gone back, and when I look at folk magic and folk traditions, I actually understand the idea of the old horny one more, but that's a whole other story. So I did have quite a Christian belief for many years, not inspired by my family, but just a faith that I found on my own. But I think that was part of my journey. I think it was a stepping stone for me to then later on find paganism and the noisiest dog in the world. So yeah, I am the only pagan in my family. So I work my beliefs, my traditions in with that of my family. We celebrate Christmas, love Christmas. I love the whole energy of it, but I've waffled on about that before. So I think it is, for me, it's about melding traditions, melding family traditions, even if some of them are religious. Although, to be fair, my family don't celebrate Christmas as a religious festival at all. I think it's about making things work for you, taking the things that you grew up learning about, taking the traditions that your family works with. Didn't turn my phone off either. It is, I told you it was going to be chaos in here today. It is about making those all work for you. Bringing it all together so that it makes sense to you. I don't necessarily think there's any right or wrong. You can practice witchcraft, whatever faith you are, as far as I'm concerned. If you make it work, you make it work for you, because that whole magical practice is that it's a magical practice. It doesn't have to have a religious element to it. My thoughts anyway, and I can see there's lots of comments up here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Excellent. So let's see where we're taking it. Sasha, I was brought up in a Catholic household, went to a CB school, and my mum read the runes and the tarot. Still work with St. Anthony. I still love churches and the old hymns, but definitely pagan. The whole angels and saints things is interesting too, isn't it? I don't work with them personally, but I know a lot of witches that do work with, particularly the archangels. So, and angels are older than Christianity. So it is, I think it is about making it work for you as long as you understand it. There's builders in now looking over the back wall. That's where he's barking at now. Yeah, I love old churches and hymns. And if you're interested in using the Psalms in your magical workings, do look up Taryn S. Witchcraft. She's got a YouTube channel and she talks about working with the Psalms in magic. She has a book, Working with Psalms in Magic, published by Moon Books. Fascinating, because the Psalms are older than Christianity as well. But using them in magical workings, absolutely brilliant. So do look at that. I'm going to have to bring the dog in. Come on, in you come. So well trained. Sephora, baptized. Yeah, I was christened. I think that was just because it was what was done, really. And then you got to have a party afterwards. I think that was just to satisfy the grandparents. Parents not religious anyway, so no expectations. Got sent to Sunday school, so my rather young parents had a Sunday morning line. I think that's what it was. I think Sunday morning Sunday school was really so the parents got 5 minutes peace. Oh, hello. Hello. People can't see you, but I have a dog on my lap. You can sit down then. Charlie, feel the main single god religions are very patriarchal. Temptation, virgins, whores, etc. Think witchcraft, paganism feel freeing as a woman, not just two main archetypes. I think there are various ways to look at it. I've worked with Mary Magdalene as a goddess, and that's fascinating. There are lots of religions that just have the one god. We are lucky with paganism that we can pick and choose from so many. But I think paganism is freeing for everyone. I think, male or female, I think it's very freeing. I think it's a lovely religion, but that's because I work with it. I might be slightly biased. For your parents and mine had a similar idea. Yeah, I think that was what Sunday school was for. getting rid of the kids for a quiet morning. Jane was a practicing Catholic till age 65, then finally extricated myself. Tried blending it with witchcraft, but someone went to my parish priest and dobbed on me. Got hauled over the coals and had my own taste of the Malleus Maleficarum before I escaped. So much happier now. You know, that's interesting too, isn't it? I have actually done a ritual, excuse me. I'm going to put this up here. There we are. I have done a ritual in a church hall. Very, very lovely priest who was open to all faiths. And as part of the Druid Grove that I was part of, then we did a ritual in the church hall, which was fantastic. So I think perhaps that is about finding a priest that is open to other things. I don't think happens very often, but you never know. Maria grew up and was christened Orthodox. The attitude still is that it's the only type of Christianity that exists. You know, that makes me laugh too, isn't it? Even within Christianity, there's so many different pathways too. There's only one God and Saviour. You know, that's what I struggled with too. The idea that babies are born inherently evil and have to absolve themselves as they, I struggled a bit with it. But not that I'm knocking anybody's beliefs or faiths. Please don't take it as that. I am more than happy for anyone to believe in what they should do, what they want to do, what they can do, what they feel is the right thing to do. I think the world would be a very boring place if we were all the same. And I think we should be free to be able to follow whatever faith we want to, whatever makes you feel happy, comfortable, safe. Entirely up to you. Maria had to go to Band of Hope and Sunday school growing up. Never understood it and found it very controlling. So as I got older, I came away from it. And my parents weren't too happy. My cousin is a mother superior and messaged my dad last year to talk me out of the craft. I think that is the other thing as well, isn't it? Do you think that is perhaps the lack of understanding about the craft? People do see it with the whole Disney fictional witches are evil kind of thing. I think that's lack of understanding. Definitely lack of understanding. The very nice priest that we knew was interested to learn about our beliefs and understanding of it all. So I think that's probably lack of understanding, isn't it? Lack of information. Good morning, Colin. Good morning, Damien. Beneath the Moon is on its way today from the land of Amazon. Yay! Thank you for that, Damien. Louise, think maybe at first witchcraft paganism was a rebellion. Yeah, in my teens, 20s. Then it dawned on me, maybe the generation of Mary in Catholicism, I can never say that word, Catholicism, made me wonder if I was drawn to the goddess because of that. Okay, I think she is very, very interesting. Got this, and I use the word goddess because she is to work with. When I exchanged letters with Ray Beth, she thought Jesus would be happy with anyone celebrating in their own way as long as it was kind. I think, I think Jesus was probably a druid. Just going to put that out there. I think that Jesus did exist. I think there was a man that was the origins of the stories. I think he was probably a healer and a very good speaker and motivational speaker. My guess is he lent towards being druid, but that's just personal thoughts. But yeah, I think you can make it work. It has to work for you. And I think probably that's why I like paganism so much, because you can tailor it to you. I use the term paganism because for me that is the religious side of it. But yeah, I absolutely, if anybody sort of questions it, being a witch is my faith as well. So yeah, it's got to work for you. Absolutely got to work for you. Karen went to Sunday school, Welsh Baptist, up until the age of 10. Was bullied and hated it. Found paganism at age 13 and never looked back. Witchcraft is what I do. It is part of my life, but my religion is pagan. Yeah, I think there is that separation, because witchcraft is that practice and you can work it no matter what your religion is. Yeah, it's all. No, we don't need to bark at him. He's just mending the roof over the other side. It's fine. Emma. At the Methodist Church, and a young man was a member of the Girls' Brigade. Sunday school events, my nan would have a vicar come around every week to say a prayer with it. Yeah, the vicar coming around to visit. That didn't happen in our house, but it was something that happened, wasn't it? I was in the Girls' Brigade band too. Eric, that's enough. Come on, in you come. Come on. I was in the Girls' Brigade band, tried the trumpet, didn't get on with that, ended up with the drums, unsurprisingly. Yeah, come in. Come on. Come on. Come on. Stop barking at that poor man trying to do his job. Lizzie wasn't brought up in a very religious home. Used to say bedtime prayers with mum when very little. It's just a spell, isn't it? We talked to the moon. We talked to the goddess. Was baptized. When young, knew vaguely about Jesus as a figure to apply to for support, but nothing very full on. Read voraciously from 5 years old, and old fairy tales really figured highly. Oh, yeah, me too. Somewhere along the way, things shifted and I started exploring. So I have a story about Jesus. Apparently, when I was very small, we went to a wedding and we went into the church and sat down on the pew next to my mum and dad. And at one point, my mum said, you've got to put your hands together and pray to Jesus. And I said, when's he coming then? I knew nothing, but I thought I was just going to rock up at the wedding. He might have done, no. Charlie, not Christian bashing, but I think Jesus was loving of both men and women. A lot of the female stories text were excluded. I wonder what it would have been like if they had been included. Now, as I'm not a historian. I leave that to my son. As I understand it, the Bible as we know it now was put together by the Romans. They pretty much all sat in a room and went, yeah, we'll have that one. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Yeah, we'll have them. No, we don't want that one. Let's throw that one out. So the Bible as we know it was put together by the Romans. And then, of course, King James revised it as well. So as it stands, it is a more modern version. Yeah, it would be interesting to see what it would have been like had it all had all of the stuff in it. And let's bear in mind as well that it was written down by scribes and scholars and people that could write and then translated. And yeah, probably not the same as it was originally. I think the idea of most faiths, though, are to be a good person, aren't they? Most faiths have that running through them. You would hope, anyway. Louise, my grandparents were very devout Catholics. My dad anti-church and mum not interested. I think I do need spirituality. I feel angels, saints, spirits, all similar beings in all faiths. Yes, I adore old churches, lovely energy. I think there are similarities through most of the religions. Hello. It is one of the things that we teach in Kitchen Witch. One of the lessons that deals with Daddy. I've got a dog on my lap. Go and sit in the chair. Go and sit in the chair. One of the lessons we do is to get students to look at the different religions, the different pantheons, and see the similarities, because there are right across the world. There are similarities in all of the cultures, in all of the religions, with the gods. You look at Hindu deities and Celtic deities. You look at Greek and Romans. Romans stole them all anyway from the Greeks. But again, in most of them, there are similarities throughout. Because I think we all interpreted it. Each culture interpreted their spirituality, the energy of the divine in different ways. But there is, most of the cultures have dragons, but that's a whole other story. I think people like to have a faith, perhaps even need to have beliefs of some kind. Enough. He's just mending the roof. He's all right. Actually, he's not. He's sitting there now having a cigarette, just looking at you, taunting him. I believe is important, something to believe in. It does. It gives us support. It gives us hope. But how you work with it, how you translate it, I think is up to you. Absolutely. Emma, my nan would watch songs of praise. I was really a believer until I was about 13 years old and first started reading witchcraft books in the school library, started looking at other beliefs. Yes. It's quite vocal this morning. The builder's now sitting on the balcony opposite, having a cigarette, staring at him. Winding him up. Eve, never been religious, got sent to Sunday school. This Sunday school keeps popping up, doesn't it? In Sunday best, lace gloves, straw hat, the lot. Went to the cemetery instead. Eve, you're such a rebel. Jane, St. Anthony is a little treasure. Never lets me down when I lose something. Jesus is one of many ascended beings, so I'm happy to listen to him as well. So Francis of Assisi's always struck me as being a perfect pagan. There are so many of these. Well, Bridget is one of the obvious ones, was a pagan goddess. And then Christians turned her into a saint. She's still the same energy, still the same being. She's just got a slightly different title. I think you have to be open to everything. You don't have to be. That's just my opinion. I think it's good to be open to anything, everything, whatever. It's support, isn't it? Louise, my children go to Catholic schools. In high school, there's a wonderful Anglican female teacher, very open and encouraging to my daughter, tree-hugging witch in training. She drew a picture of Jesus looking exactly like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo with a speech bubble saying, "Hey, that's not cool, man." And her teacher put it up in the staff room. Excellent. Well, let's not even get into the image of what Jesus looks like and what he would have actually looked like. That's a whole other thing as well. Jalala, just writing some thoughts about this and realised the time you were here, you were talking about it. That's good. We're on the same wavelength. I am going to shut the door now because he's making loads of noise. Chaos reigns today. You have to embrace that too. You're right there. It's on a different chair now. There we go. Sit on the kitchen chair now because the armchair apparently isn't comfortable enough. Mrs. Mac, I was really scared about the devil. Then as I got older, I couldn't understand why everything seemed so black and white, good, evil. Then if you sinned, you could just say confession and be forgiven. That is quite an interesting concept, isn't it? Yes, I know I've never experienced the idea of confession because I was Baptist and we didn't have it. But yet it's a very strange thing, isn't it? I couldn't wrap my head around the devil. Couldn't wrap my head around the idea that there was a being that was totally evil. Yeah, didn't make sense to me. Oh yeah, fairy tales. We have a lot to learn from the original fairy tales, not the Disney ones, the Grimm ones, the original ones. Dawny, I have been practicing witchcraft for a while now and have not given a name to it as I don't identify with any of it. Pagan, Wiccan, etc. I think that's where the difference is. Witchcraft is a magical practice. It doesn't need to have a religion attached to it. You don't need to be pagan. You don't need to be Wiccan to practice witchcraft. You don't have to. There doesn't have to be that side to it. It works for me to bring it in with my paganism. In fact, I probably found them about the same time. I think my journey was, they started in tandem, paganism and witchcraft. originally Wicca, but now these days just straight pagan witch. But yeah, they don't necessarily go hand in hand. Charlie, I'm drawn to Ellen and Bridget, but also Mary Magdalene and Roses. Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene for feminine energy and any of the issues and girl power stuff. Mary Magdalene on the nail. Birthday July 22nd, feast of Mary Magdalene, and my mum's birthday August, Assumption of Mary, and my mum's mum is called Mary. My mum's called Mary, and my middle name is Mary. a lot of it about. Eric does believe in me. He is definitely my dog. Yes. He is my support dog. That's why he's so stressed. Charlie grew up in a fundamentalist atheistic household, found that very restrictive and oppressive, apart from my nan, who was Mary and was Christian and taught me to pray. I think my parents aren't religious, but they've always been quite, they just expect me to be weird, I think. They would be disappointed if I wasn't weird. So they're very, understanding of it all, I think. Pete is atheist. He worships at the altar of rock and roll, although he does have a bit of an addiction to incense. He does like his incense. But he understands that my journey has made me a better person and has given me the support and the strength that I need. So he is very supportive of it. My children, I think they're generally open to it all. My daughter, if you ask her, will say she's pagan. They've both been to rituals that we used to hold, kitchen witch rituals, but they don't necessarily follow it. My son he likes to debate stuff. Fascinated with the Viking gods, but he's doing A-levels in all of the history stuff, so he likes to debate about it more than anything. Kerry, my mother was brought up as a Christian, but didn't teach us kids about all that stuff. She had crystals and tarot cards. I guess there are generations where I want to say parents in the 70s maybe were more open to crystals and tarot and things because it was more open in those days. I learned after her passing that my paternal grandmother was a spiritualist. Never knew it when she was alive. So, no. David, no matter what religion of your youth will influence your life or value system. Yeah, it's influences, isn't it? You can reevaluate it, but it will still creep into your choice making. I think this was the basis of the subject that the very lovely lady who recommended today's talk subject, the point she was making. If you are brought up in a really strict religious household during your youth, it's bound to have an effect on you and how you look at things and how you work. She wanted to know how you deprogram yourself. I'm not sure you ever do completely. I think you're right, David. It does affect your choices and the way that you do things. But I don't necessarily think that is a bad thing. I think that just gives you something you work with it. It does affect you. It's bound to affect the choices you make and the way that you work. But I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I don't think you have to be completely deprogrammed from it all. You use that as your structure and adapt it to what you're doing now. Morning, little Miss Nemo. Difference is that Christianity is full of patriarchal, testosterone-fueled dogma, and witchcraft isn't, unless your name's Gerald and you've got white exploding hair. Oh, there's a loaded comment. Again, I think witchcraft is, we got to separate that. Gerald was the Wiccan side of things, which is the religion. Wicca is a recognized religion. Witchcraft is practiced by all sorts of people and all sorts of religions across the world. I think there are lots of religions that are very patriarchal, very on that side of things, perhaps some even more so than Christianity. But I'm just trying to think. In the Girls' Brigade, all of the leaders were women, but we had a boys' brigade as well. I remember the first Girls' Brigade camp I went to. It was huge field in Festiniog in Wales. It did rain all week. The girls' tents were all on one side of the field, and the boys' brigade tents were all on the other side of the field. I think any religion will have its good and bad people and its good and bad leaders. It involves humans, and whenever humans get into a position of power, some of them do it for the wrong reason. So I think there's good and bad in all religions, really. I've met some lovely priests. I've met some, not so nice. But I think you probably find that in a lot of religions. Jesus was a druid. I'm fairly sure he was. Mrs. Matt also struggled with God being a person. See, I don't think he is, though. I think God is a divine being rather than an actual person. The same as the goddess, really. And again, I think that probably depends on how you see the divine. I know that I've mentioned it before, but my thought is that the world, when the world began, there was one divine energy. Male, female, neither, both. Just this one energy. And as everything was being created, as the world formed, and I mean from the scientific Big Bang point of view, each culture then required something to believe in. So it drew on that divine energy. And then each culture around the globe worshipped the sun, the moon, because they needed it. They had to worship something to make sure the crops grew. They worshipped things to make sure that they had enough food, because their whole primary concern was staying alive. Singing now. Bee Gees. But this one divine energy was then interpreted by different cultures across the globe, which is where we get the different pantheons from, which is where we get the different religions. I think they all came from one source. They were just interpreted in different ways depending on the culture across the globe. But then you get man involved as well. And by man, I mean humans, not gender specific, just humans, who then write things down and add their own little bits into it. But I think if you've got a belief in the divine in some way, it will appear to you, they will appear to you in the way that you recognize. So for me, the divine is all of these different gods and goddesses, all different characters, all different personalities, but actually all of the same. So it's one big diamond, and all the gods and goddesses are the facets to that diamond. So although I might work with Sulis, or I might work with Balanos, I might work with Ganesha, they're actually individual beings, individual characteristics, individual personalities, but they all form part of the one faceted diamond that creates the goddess. That's how I see it. It's not how everyone will see it. We're all different. We're all different. Sephora, nature is my religion. Never put a name to it, just is. And I think with all of the pagan, everything under the pagan umbrella, druids, witches, people with spiritual beliefs, shamanic practitioners, nature will be at that base. It's the common denominator, if you like. Louise, gosh, the priest used to call on a Sunday tea time to try to encourage us to attend church. Used to hide under my mum's dressing table. I like the vicar calling for tea. It's very, very English. Jalala, I've never really had a sure spiritual path and I'm exploring things. Love the Druid path and that may be where I go, but I also feel drawn to Taoism. We'll see where I end up. And I also think you don't need to label it. Whilst I am a pagan witch, I've drawn on all sorts of different things over the years. I have worked with Druidry. I have been part of a Druid grove. I've been to shamanic workshops. I've had a bit of shamanic training. I've looked at all sorts of different spiritual traditions from all over the world. I'm a pagan witch, I'm a kitchen witch, I'm a hedge witch, but I have all my Wiccan training as well. And all those other little bits, the pick and mix bits to make my own buffet. So it doesn't need to have a name or a label. Kerry, the Bible is one big hypocritical manifest. I think it's a difficult one. I think any of the book religions rely on that book as their guide, which is perhaps again why I like paganism so much, because it doesn't have that written rules. I think if you look at some of the book religions, some of them are translated how that person sees fit to translate it. It's a bit like I'm going to go Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Okay, so the Bajoran prophets, all of their scriptures, quotes, all have to be translated, and they're all quite cryptic. So it depends who's translating it and what they see it as. And it can have completely different meanings. And I think the book religions are a little bit like that. It depends how you translate it, how you see it, how you read it. But it does provide a structure and a comfort for a lot of people. So, you know, I'm not judging, never would. Maria, my aunt used to come around to encourage us to go to church. We nicknamed her Preacher. I think that's one of the problems I do have. We do get people knock the door, religious people knock the door sometimes to try and convert us. I find that very intrusive. I don't go around to people's front doors and try and get them to convert to paganism. I think that for me is quite intrusive. That's entering people's private spaces and trying to convert them. That for me is wrong. But, you know, this is the interesting thing. Sasha, I seem to remember there's quite a bit of magic in the Bible, what with staffs being turned into snakes and so on. There is. And I think this is also, again, if you're interested in that side of things, the Psalms are all magical spells pretty much. Taraness she explains that perfectly. But they're older than Christianity, but they were used as spells. So it is all interesting stuff. Wouldn't it have been great if someone as significant as Hildegard of Hildegard, I love that name. That is just such a powerful name. Had been one of the authors of either Testament, but no, she had to come along a lot later. With a name like Hildegard, she could have done anything. Yeah, I think we've had lots of people throughout history that could have changed things, did change things. It's interesting. Yeah, Jane, priests, they do, you know, this is my point. Every religion has something similar. If you go to church and you have the bread and wine, it is the body and blood of Christ. As pagans, we do offerings, libations to the ground. In ritual, you drink and you eat so that you may never thirst and you may never hunger. And that does translate across lots of religions. Oh, the incense to clear negative energies has been used for thousands of years in all sorts of cultures. The idea of cleansing with smoke has been used everywhere. Yeah, people putting money in the collection, making offerings. It is. There's so many similarities, so many similarities. Colin was brought up as a Protestant and went to the Scouts. The family became Mormons later until they said my brothers and I should be in church, not visiting my father in a hospital. Read a lot about other faiths, but was drawn to paganism by Alexander's book, King of the Witches. It is very interesting how many of us, I think, probably were influenced by a book. Love books. Love books. Debbie. Complicated. Yeah, sometimes I think it is, isn't it? Scandinavian maternal line were Catholic, Lutheran, paternal line Scottish, but my dad was a laid-back secret pagan, was Christian to C&E, went to Sunday school, yeah, till about 8, when I told the vicar I didn't believe in God. Infuriated my mum, but my dad knew it wasn't my thing. Mum wasn't happy that I tell her that things were going to happen or I could see things. You would have been burnt at the stake at one point for that. She was very wary of me. Dad would take it all in his stride and seem to know I was different. I think it's about acceptance as well, isn't it? It is about acceptance. David, Bible, interesting book. But it is. It's got some fascinating stuff in it. Did you know God showed off his backside to Moses because no mortal could survive seeing his face? I did not know that one. It does have some very bizarre stories. And I think it also depends what version you look at as well, because obviously it's been changed over the years. Yes, Sephora. Greed, control, persecution. It appears religion gets used as a weapon. Now, there's the issue. One of the things that put me right off the whole concept. It does get used as an excuse to be horrible to people. Yeah, absolutely. He's got workmen too, and her pub's barking. Yeah. Vanessa, is it possible that Jesus was a politician of his time? I think he was a healer. I wasn't there, not quite that old. I feel it sometimes, but I'm not quite that old. I think he was a healer. I think he was a good bloke. I think he probably was a very motivational speaker. Politician, depends how you think about politicians, I guess. Please don't answer that. But I think he was about. Jackie, mum religious, dad an atheist, had to go to church. Sunday school, it is. Sunday school keeps cropping up. I argued creation myth from an early age and peed off the teachers and religious types. So in the end, I bumped off all and went over the park instead to commune with nature. Mum always frowned upon it, her family quite religious. They always referred to me as different and a bit fey. Godmother decided she couldn't be my godmother as if I was pagan. Quite hurtful, very ignorant to this day. Is that a generational thing, though, perhaps as well? I don't recall any of my grandparents ever being religious either, but I possibly a more generational thing. And again, lack of understanding about the different faiths, religions. Kerry, I wasn't allowed to choose St. Francis for my confirmation in the Catholic religion, so I didn't go ahead with it. I can't have St. Francis, that's it. Jane, church envied paganism so much it misappropriated all their icons, tweaked them to scare people into submission, like using the horned god image to represent their devil. I mean, there are so many old churches that are built on pagan sites. To me, it makes me laugh every time. The idea being that the Christian church was built on the pagan site so that people would still come and worship. Do they not think that people would there's a great big church here in there where there used to be a grove of trees. Never noticed that going up. Oh well, we'll worship there anyway. Not so sure about that. But yeah, Yule is the one, the winter solstice is the one, isn't it? Winter solstice is about the rebirth of the sun. SUN. Christmas is the birth of the sun, S-O-N. Yeah, there's lots of, I think there are lots of overlaps and lots of let's nick that holiday, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. Charlie, always have this idea that Jesus, Mary Magdalene and Muhammad would have got on really well with the pre-Christian gods and goddesses. Maybe they had experiences and connected with them. I think this is also worth bearing in mind that some of these religions are older than others. So paganism is much older than Christianity. And I think, I don't know, again, wasn't there. But when humans first walked the earth and started to worship things, it would have been nature. It would have been, let's just send up this request that the sun will rise tomorrow morning. Let's all positive thinking, guys. We need some rain to water the crops. Let's make an offering to the river so that it doesn't flood all of our fields this year. And to me, that's how the whole idea came along. I know specifically with the English deities, the old English deities, they all came from rivers or from places of nature where people honoured the river because the river gave life and it took life. So they would honour it. They would put offerings in it. The hot springs at Bath, totally bizarre phenomenon now, let alone to ancient man. So that's a bit scary. Hot, steamy water coming straight out of the earth. Let's make offerings to it so that it doesn't harm us. And it all evolved. And then, the new religions came in after. It's a fascinating subject. It is a fascinating subject. Little Miss Nemo. There's lovely on YouTube describes herself as an agnostic witch and practices the craft without the religious aspect. You can. You don't have to call yourself anything. Witchcraft is the magical practice. And it can be worked with by anyone of any religion or no religion at all. It is a magical practice. So no labels necessary. No religion necessary. You can work magic. You can work witchcraft with no religion attached to it at all. Maria, found it weird that everyone kissed paintings of saints. And even through the pandemic, people were asked to wear masks in church, yet they sipped off the same spoon during confession. It's the whole sipping from the same cup thing. We stopped doing that at Open Rituals a very long time ago because it's quite icky. We ended up buying little individual cups for people to use because, it's a little bit icky. Emma, after moving through Chinese, Native American and other belief systems, I finally found witchcraft. When I told my family I was a witch, I actually cried because I was scared to tell them. No idea why. I like that's preconceptions, isn't it? Because you mention the word witch and quite a lot of people, they'll either laugh because they don't believe it's real, which is the experience I've had with a lot of people, or they will be frightened of it, scared of it, because they'll think it's evil. And that's media and Hollywood. We have to thank for that. Sephora, I like the architecture of many places of worship in many religions. They often have the best candles, and I do love a bit of blingy embroidery. Yes. Does it not make you stop and think, though, that all of those beautiful churches, well, all of that money must have been spent on them, and all of that gold and jewel-encrusted paraphernalia on their altars, that the money could have been spent on the people, but that's just a whole other thing. But there we have altars. Churches have altars. Witches work with altars. Candles. Oh, pretty much every religion everywhere has candles, don't they, in some form? All of these similarities again. Colin, my father's uncle was a minister who would go to the pub after his service. He would then go to the pub to see people who did not go to the service. Priests and vicars, they like a drink too. Little Miss Nemo's birthday is St. John the Baptist feast day. My birthday's Halloween. What does that say? Jalala, my dad always said, when you're ready, you'll choose. He felt that belief in religion was a private thing. Oh, I'm with you on that one. Never know to this day what he believed in spiritually. He was a Freemason, and I have a little globe thing of his covered in symbols. The Freemasons, my dad's Freemason. There's similarities there too. There is the pentagram. There is the Solomon's temple. There are so many different things, but a lot of Wicca was drawn from the Freemason working. The Freemasons, as I understand it, believe in a spirit, but you can work with Freemasonry as any religion. It is about believing in a divine spirit, the architect, I think they call him. That again is another thing that is very misunderstood, because it is quite a closed thing. People misunderstand it. You get good and bad people there as well, same as you do in anything else, but I think that's very misunderstood. The Freemasons do a huge amount for charity, huge amount. But it is a fascinating thing to look at as well, and there are a lot of similarities. Merry meet, merry part, merry meet again. That's used in Freemasonry as well. Another fascinating thing. Amanda, I was raised in a scientific household and was always taught to question everything. As a result, when asking questions during religious education classes, why did we always have to do that? You still have to do that now in school. Teacher always answered my questions with, because God said so. That's like a mum saying, isn't it? Why would I do that? Because I said so. Learned religion was not for me. Believe in a higher power, but not in the form of just one entity. And, we're all different, and it has to work for us. I don't believe there's any right or wrong in it. Eve, some stained windows are awesome. Oh, some of the churches are beautiful. Very easy to deprogram. Just look at all the things that have been done to people in the name of religion. It has been used. It's been used as an excuse for a lot of things. Angela, not from a religious family at all. Went to a CV primary school. I think most schools were in those days. They were all Church of England schools or Catholic schools, or school was quite. I don't want to use the word dominated, but schools were generally of one Christian faith or another. Took myself off to church a couple of times when I was about 10, realised early it was not for me. And it has to feel right. Emma, never understood why following a book to letter made you a good person. I always felt that being a good person was a given. Yeah, a lot of people don't think that, Emma. That's the problem, I think. I think it's about being a decent person, isn't it? You shouldn't need a religion or a book to tell you to be a decent person. No. Jane, so much corruption in the Catholic Church. They close ranks and protect each other with diplomatic herd immunity. I think that goes for any big company, big corporation, though, doesn't it? Not just religion. That's the human aspect that comes into it. Human spectrum ranges from charismatic to dollars ditchwater. When you get a charismatic person with ideas, look out. we move into cults then, I guess, don't we? Let's get Hazel. Hi, Hazel. To be fair, my parents, they never tried to impose their beliefs on me. My mum was Salvation Army. My father was an atheist, quite loud in his disparaging. I think it left me looking for something. So I chose to go to Sunday school and went to Quaker meetings, but didn't like the absence of women in Christianity. It's interesting, isn't it? Because there are some really strong ones. I mentioned Mary Magdalene before. She's a powerhouse of feminine energy. She should be running the show, really. But I also think it is, for me, it's about balance. It isn't about wiping out all the women. God, women have fought for a place in life for so long. We've earned it, absolutely earned it. But I think for me, it's also not about going too far the other way. It is about bringing a balance to it. It is. It's interesting. It's all interesting. Angela, did compare and contrast between Buddhism, Christianity and witchcraft for my O-level in religious education. Compulsory. Yeah, RE, it's not called RE anymore. It's still in school. It's still a compulsory subject to do. Sasha, used to worry that my paganism was just a rebellion against the church, but that rebellion has lasted for 35 years now. I think you're probably past the rebellion bit. Your approach that witchcraft is remembered as much as learned resonated. Oh, I think it is. I do think that we remember witchcraft as much as we do learn it. Absolutely. Hazel, I remember Tony Bent saying Christianity gave him a code of behavior to follow. I think part of most religions teaches you about being a decent person, but I think you should have that anyway, shouldn't you? Surely my parents taught me not to judge people on color, creed, size, shape, whatever. If you're a decent person, you're a decent person. I was brought up with manners and morals and the understanding that you need to be a decent person because it's the right thing to do. I didn't need religion to tell me that. That's about being a decent human and being brought up as a decent human. Little Miss Nemo, more tea, Vicar. My dad says that every time his wine glass is empty. Jay, know what you mean about the candles. Make my candles with recycled church wax. Got tons of it. Interesting. Pastel stumps are best. They're usually about 2 feet long. I like the idea of that. Actually, the girls and I went to Chichester Cathedral a couple of weeks back. It's a fascinating place. Poshest toilets I've ever been into in a church. And I lit a candle. I lit a candle for the Kitchen Witch Coven because it felt like the right thing to do. I think that we cross over. We do cross over. Colin, used to like Dave closing on "May your God go with you." So encompassing. I like it. Yeah, Dave Allen. He was a legend. He was an absolute legend. Angela, it's just personal, but I don't see paganism as a religion. It's more a way of life. Technically, it is a religion, but I understand that. The original meaning of the word pagan is a country dweller. Yeah, it's changed. The meaning of it has changed. It was an insult originally. It was the lower people. I think paganism as a religion is probably a more modern way of looking at it. Jane, heading towards spiritualism now. Just love living the liminal and reaching beyond the stuff of this world. Oh, I spend half my life there. Always 1 foot in this world and 1 foot over the hedge. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know we've gone over time as we always do. Emma, my nan was disabled and unable to get to church, so the blind vicar with his wife would come over so she could have her own little ritual and prayer at home. I liked that, Vicky. He was good to our nan. That's what it should be. Yeah, love it. Damien, I say I'm omniist, but lean towards paganism. My half-sister was brought up in a very strict Jehovah Witness family until she was able to leave at 17. Now she really struggles with spirituality and religion. Yeah, I think if people are brought up in such a strict religious structure, it probably is quite difficult to step outside of that. Yeah, the priest would always visit for a cup of tea. I could do that. I could be a pagan priest, couldn't I? And just pop round to people's houses for cups of tea and slices of cake. I'm up for that. Do a bit of pastoral paganism care, as long as there's tea and cake involved. Charlie, glad you mentioned the power issue. I have a fear, caution of organisations. Now, this is the thing. You don't just get these power struggles in Christianity, any of the religion. I've seen these power struggles in covens. I've seen these power struggles in Druid groups, in pagan groups. It is not exclusive to any particular religion. There will always be someone that likes the power and the glory of being in charge. It is not necessarily a good thing, but it covers all not just restricted. There's lots of comments here, and I'm just squiggling through. I will read them all later, but we have gone way over time. Angela, did paganism become classified as a religion for officialdom purposes, like Jedi? Yes, you can be a Jedi. Yes, I believe Wicca is an officially recognised religion as well. Yes, as far as I am aware. There are lots and lots of comments, so do please read them all, people. But we've gone way over time, so I am gonna. I'm just quickly whizzing through. I will go back and read them. We are way over time. It is a fascinating subject and is a huge subject. I think, in summary, if you had a very strict religious upbringing, it may be very difficult to restructure yourself. But don't necessarily think you have to wipe out all of your religious upbringing. Make it work for you. A prayer is just a simple spell. Incense covers all the cultures. It's used for clearing negative energy wherever you are. Candle is lit to shine light into the world, whatever religion you are. Make those things work for you. If your family is very strict, whether they are Christian, Jewish, whatever it might be, and you're pagan, see if you can find some common ground. Celebrate those Christmases, or whatever the religious festival might be. You'll quite often find, because paganism is such an old religion, that there will be reflections of it in whatever celebration it is. I do talk about that a lot in A Witch for Every Season book. It is about making it all work for you. Folk tradition and local celebrations and folklore all can be melded and mixed together and made work for you. But you also don't necessarily have to give it a label. Your spirituality, your belief, your faith doesn't need to have a label. The same as being witch, you don't need to have a specific label for it. It's your pathway, it's your own personal pathway. And you can work witchcraft with any religion or no religion. It can be worked with separately. So we'll go back afterwards and read all those comments, but we are way over time as usual. Fascinating subject. If anyone has got something they'd like to talk about going forward, do ping me a message and I will see if we can cover it. Fascinating talk today. Your pathway is your own. It is absolutely your own. Make it work for you. So thank you, as always, for joining me. Fascinating talk this week. Hello. You're back. Thankfully, he didn't bark all the way through it. Have a fantastic week, people. And I will catch you all next week. Take care, everyone.